Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here. Welcome back to the servicing table today. Now I was talking with my friend Adi Pullen a few weeks ago now it was, and we were talking about the old style Hornby Hogwarts Castle with the Ringfield style motor in there. And he was asking me how you go about servicing it, and I wasn't sure, and he thought, you know, maybe it's not even possible to service this. So that's what I'm going to try and do today. I'm going to film myself trying to take this thing apart to find out whether it is possible, and if it is, how to do it. Now, the weird thing is, I will have done this before, I will have serviced it before, because I try to service all of my locomotives on quite a regular basis. But I can't remember how thorough I was able to be with this, because obviously if you can't access the motor, you can't access the motor. But we're going to give it a try, and what happens will happen. So let's give it a try. So yeah, as I was saying, this is only, well, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm told, I've heard from some people, that Hornby corrected the fact that this is a Castle Class locomotive and instead released it as a Hall Class, and the Hall Class didn't have this type of motor. So it's only the Castle Class version that does, as far as I know. I can't say whether or not that's true because I don't have one of those. But yeah, I'm going to try and disconnect the loco from the tender first of all. I think that is quite an important step. So I'm just going to remove the rear screw here. And I do remember that at the very least. So I'm just going to get this pot out and put the back screw in there. So yeah, it's quite an informal video. It is going to be a how-to because I'm going to show you how to do it. But it's not as though I know how either. So we're going to find out together. Anyway, I'm just going to take this base plate off because I think it would be easier to remove the front bogie. So I'm just going to lift this up and take the front bogie out. There it is. And I'm just going to put that to one side and undo this screw. So that was the front screw. I'm going to undo this screw here, which probably holds the chassis in as well. And I'm not going to lose this copper strip because that is important for springing that front bogie up. So I'll keep that with the front bogie. Okay, the tender should be able to get itself out of here now. So I'll put that over there, and hopefully the body will now come off if I've done it properly. Yes, there it is. And here's the spring. Oh, in fact, the spring can stay on the body then. Okay. So put the body to one side, and the first thing we're going to try and do then is access the motor, because that is the big thing. That is the big question with this. Okay, let's have a look then. Okay, well, I'm going to undo these screws first of all, see if we can get the brushes out. That's one. You've got to keep hold of these, by the way, you don't want to lose these screws. Okay, that's one. Keep that safe. They're not springing out of there, which is good news. And the other one. I apologise if my hands get in the way at any point, by the way, because I can't see what I'm doing on the screens normally. Okay. So that should loosen up the back plate, probably. Let's have a look. Not necessarily, I suppose. No, that doesn't seem to be too loose at the moment, so I'm not going to mess about with that. Alright, let's go ahead and take the brushes out then. That's one. Gosh, they're very short springs. Don't know about the brushes yet. Okay, the brushes aren't going to just drop out of there, so I'm not going to mess with those at the moment. There seems to be a little screw at the bottom here, so I'm going to undo that. And that, I think, ought to release this back plate, and yes it has. Alright, that is cool. I'm starting to remember this, I think, now. Alright, so that's the back plate. I'm going to hold on to that. And I believe the screw stays in there if I remember correctly. So I'm just going to try and take that armature out now. It may or may not want to come out. So if I can, I'm going to just pull it out without damaging the armature. Alright, and there it is, and it is in desperate need of a clean by the looks of it. And obviously the same advice as always, be very, very, very careful with these armatures, because if you do damage any of the wiring on them, the loco won't work, needless to say. Okay, so inside there, I don't know if you can see, yep, you can just about see it there. You can see there's a gear there, which is dirty. It just seems to be grimy, so I'm not going to try and clean that up. But what I will do is put some oil on there, and I will, you know, try and clean as much as I can, but I'm not going to try and clean that gear because I don't want to damage the plastics or anything like that. But let's clean inside that gap anyway. So I'm just using lighter fluid here for those of you who haven't seen me do this before, and regular cotton buds. I'll clean a little bit of that gear if I can as well. and I'm just telling you what I'm doing just in case the cameras aren't seeing it too well. Okay, that's good then. So obviously what we need to do is oil that in a second, but now I'm going to try and clean up the armature. Now I do have a Dremel with a wire brush. I think you call it that. No, it's like a yeah, it's like a wire wheel, isn't it, with steel wire on it or whatever, and that is great for cleaning these commutators. But this one is just grimy, so I'm just using the cotton bud to clean it off. And obviously if this cotton bud leaves any sort of cottony residue left behind on the commutator or on the gear, you need to make sure you need to get that off basically, because that is just the kind of thing that will clog up a motor like this. So you want it free of all dust and dirt, including any dirt or dust or fluff that comes off the cotton bud. There we are, that seems to be satisfactorily clean. There we go. Right, and as you can see, I did snag a little bit of cotton onto the gear. So by eye, I'm just making sure that that is not still on there. Clean those up. Okay, well I'm satisfied that that commutator is clean. Now I'm going to just apply a bit of oil to the inside gears. Okay, let's hope there's some oil in the pen. Yes, there is. So a bit of oil right there, and a bit of oil on the other gear. I can see a smaller gear attached to it, a bit like on the diesel ring-filled motor. And I'm going to replace the armature back in there, and I think I'll apply the oil to the armature later on. And my God, those magnets are very strong. But again, I won't complain because that is a good thing. And I'll put that face back on, and there's a little screw at the very bottom which you just need to do up, and that should hold the back plate on. Yeah, there we go, I felt that nip. Okay, alright, I'm still not going to put the oil on the armature yet because I'm going to put the brushes back in first. So here the brushes are, and let's get a little more of this lighter fluid on the cotton bud and just clean those up. Yeah, this is a messy thing. I need to find, I've actually got, no, this is sad, you'll enjoy this. You can all have a laugh at me for this. I've got a big book, a big blue folder with a piece of paper in it for every single locomotive I've got, and it's really anal, this is. But in there I've got all the dates for the services. I service them once a year these days. I used to do it every 6 months. And in there I've got notes on each loco, what I did, what the pitfalls are. And I mean, it is sad and it is a bit over the top, but it's great because I can just think of any locomotive, find it in that book, and it says, you know, oh careful, the rear screw on that body's loose, or oh careful, this motor is a bit irritating to put back together, or you know, whatever. It's just good to keep notes. So I need to find out when this loco was due for a service because it was very, very messy to service this one. So yeah, I don't know, I would hope that it's almost ready for a service, which would explain why it's so dirty. But obviously I'd remember if I'd only just done it, so I'm sure it wasn't that long ago. I'm sure it was quite a while ago. Okay, that's one of those brushes back in. Yeah, happy with that. Okay, let's put the other one in. Now these screws are the same length, and I noticed that when I was taking them out. But on some models, notably the mainline models with the ring-filled motor, one of the screws will be longer than the other, and that's because one of them has to reach the other side of the split chassis. So if yours is like that, you need to make sure that you're putting the same screw back into the same spot. Okay, now let's have a look at the axles then, and this is the tricky thing. Now I do remember how to do this, you'll be pleased to know. So I'm just going to take this last screw out here. Now what happened was, when I first tried to service this, and I do remember this happening, I tried to undo this rear screw while the body was still on. But in fact, as you can see here, there is a nut which you need to grab onto while you undo that. And for me, I just thought, oh, there's something wrong with the threading on this screw because I'm turning it, but it's not coming out. But that's why. And I think this is the only kind of locomotive that does that. It's very strange. But you can't get to the axles and the pickups without doing that. As you can see, now it's all come away. So move that plate to one side, and the pickups, I think they're wired in. It is very dirty down there actually, so I might just try and clean it out with a cotton bud. So throw the old cotton bud away. And the annoying thing is these wires, let's see here, it's just the one wire I expect. And if I'd have not put the motor back together so soon, I could have taken that off probably, but I've got enough access to it there. So I'm going to grab my helping hand just to hold this up for me, because I can't be bothered with it keep falling over all the time. Excuse me a minute. So I'm just going to adjust this so that it can hold it for me, because as you can see, it's not very stable. There we are, that's one. There's the other. Just drop it down onto its end. There we are, I'm happy with that. Okay, let me move that up then. And obviously, I'm manhandling this a little bit, but you're going to want to be very careful with these pickups, because they're not all that easy to bend back into shape if you accidentally disturb them. God, there's a lot of gears in here. I mean, these are notorious for not running very well, and you can see why, because there's so much gearing inside there. I mean, they're very powerful, don't get me wrong, but you know, there's a lot to go wrong. Okay, lubricate then, and because I don't use grease, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's like is it a silicone type gel? I don't know what it is, but you get it, and it's like a thick paste which goes on the gears, and that seems to last longer than the regular oil, but I don't like the mess it makes. So I use regular oil, but it doesn't seem to last as long, so you do need to do it more often, but I've never had a problem. And you can tell when a loco needs some oil. You can normally tell. Okay, just cleaning the pickups, which weren't very dirty, but it's good practice just to clean them when you've got them out. Okay, and making sure that all lines back up before I replace this main plate which holds the pickups in. I seem to have managed to disturb all of this. No, I think we're okay there. Right. Screw this back in. And now I've got to try and get that nut secured back in again at the back. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to push the screw back in. This is going to be fiddly, by the way, you can just tell, can't you? But that goes in there, and there's not much thread actually to get to. Put the knot on top, and then screw it in place. Yep, that seems to have got it nice and tight. Man, I got lucky there. Jammy bugger. Okay, that's cool. Right, I think before I put it all together, I'm just going to give it a little bench test, just to make sure that I'm not just getting lucky here, and you know, if I put it all back together and it didn't work, that would be very embarrassing and very annoying too. So I'm not going to do that, I'm going to get it tested straight away. Just for the, whoa, that scared me to death. Hang on, turn this down a bit. Okay, blimey, that scared me to death. Okay, look at that, run across the table. Yeah, it's working, so the motor we know is sort of together properly. Okay, let's put this back together then. I'm just thinking, is there anything I could do? I suppose I could clean the wheels while it's out, actually. That's not a bad idea, is it? So let's do this again. Let's get the helping hand to grab it. Thank you, helping hand. Get the old crocodile clips out again. Okay, turn it on. Crikey. Now, just bear in mind that the base plate on this isn't properly secured at the moment. It has got 2 screws in it, so I don't think it's going to move, but it might make a bit of a funny noise before it's properly attached. There we are. Just clean each of the wheels. They're not very dirty actually, which is good news. But I would always recommend cleaning the wheels, because then you know 100% that they're clean. There we go. And I'll lubricate the linkage in just a second, but we don't need to do that with the body off. So okay, wheels are clean, motor's clean and oiled. So I think now we're truly ready to put the body back on and reconnect it to the tender. Yes, the tender on this is permanently connected to the loco, so that needs to be dealt with. But let's put the body back into the helping hand. I'm not really sure why I took it out. I'm sure there must have been a reason, but I can't really remember. I've got a bit of a split on the screw there, but I don't think that's causing much of a problem. Okay. Did this go on the bottom or the top? I'm not sure. I'm going to say the bottom. I don't know what this metal piece does actually. You would expect that it does pick up, but it doesn't. So, what it's for is a very good question. I don't know. Okay, so I've managed to get the tender hook, the tender coupling, through the back of the loco body and over the screw where it needs to be screwed in. So I think I'm ready now to lower the chassis into the body again, which should be nice and easy to do. There you go. And I'm going to replace this front piece here, which has the spring for the front bogie. There we go, nice and easy. Screw that in. I'm not going to screw it in all the way until the rear screw is back in, so I'll do that bit now. There goes the rear screw. Try and get that in if possible. There we go, and I can just gradually tighten each of them up now. There we are. Okay, that's tight. Don't want to go too tight, of course. And now let's get the front bogie reattached, which is this. And also don't forget to clean the wheels on the front bogie if they're dirty. And I think I'll do that too, but I'll wait till it's back on. Okay, and the last screw goes in then with the screwdriver. All the way in. And I'll make sure the others are tight. We know that one's tight. That one is tight now. Okay, tiny bit of oil. Always use a very small amount of oil on the linkage rods and the valve system, depending on what sort of valve system your loco's got. There we are, and on the other side. Okay, and very quickly, because I know I'm dragging on a bit, I will just clean the front bogie wheels. Now this loco doesn't have tender pickups, but I would clean the tender wheels nonetheless if they are dirty, but again you'll be able to tell whether they're dirty or not and whether they need to be cleaned. But normally, because I've got so many locos, I just clean them anyway, and then I know they're clean because I won't see them again for another year. So yeah, I have to think of it like that. So yeah, a little bit of dirt is coming off them actually, so I'm glad I did that. There we are. Get the hair out. And that is ready to be tested. So I'll take it to the track very quickly and we'll see if that runs okay. But obviously we've sort of spoiled the surprise because we know that it's running just about okay. Okay folks, well that is it. Let's go and test it. Okay, let's give her a spin then. I'm just going to pop her on the track. I've put some of the LMS coaches out for her so that she can pull them because, as I was saying earlier, it is a very strong and powerful locomotive. But as you can see, yeah, it seems to be running nicely. And it will get smoother and quieter as she runs. So it works. So AD, I hope that's okay, I hope that helped you out, and of course anybody else who was wondering how to go about that, there you have it, that's how to do it. So thank you very much for watching, as always folks, and I will see you on Wednesday for another video. Alright, cheers everybody, see you soon.